Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have with us attorneys for Social Security Disability. Please hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have with us attorneys Gary Bimberg and Joseph Hull. Thank you, Gary and Joseph, for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay. Normally our show takes off on a different spin, and it usually has guests that tells us about services for persons with disabilities. However, you two gentlemen are attorneys who represent Social Security disability claims?
That's correct.
Okay. Basically, you work for a law firm, and what law firm is that?
I work for the law firm of Levine, Benjamin, Tushman, Bratt, Jarris, and Stein in Southfield.
Okay. And the type of cases that you normally handle?
We handle Social Security disability claims, Gary and I, which means that an individual who applies for Social Security disability and gets denied, we assist them and help them get their disability.
Okay. So basically, do you have a specialized training?
Well, both Joe and I are attorneys. We both clerked at this law firm during law school. I went to undergrad at Michigan State. Joe, however, went at U of M, so we always have something to talk about. We both went to law school at University of Detroit, and our legal careers are solely based with Social Security claims.
Okay. So basically, when someone get in contact with you, basically, how does one get in contact with you?
Well, generally we have a large client base, and they can reach us in the yellow pages and so forth. But we get a lot of our clients from past referrals and so forth from other clients.
Okay.
And we're in the Galleria building in Southfield.
Okay. So can you give us some history on who is eligible for Social Security disability, or what makes a person eligible?
Well, Social Security disability is for people under the age of 65. Okay, that's the most important thing to remember. Once you turn 65, you can get automatic retirement. But below 65, and if you're disabled, meaning you can no longer work, you can collect disability benefits. The most common type of program is disability insurance benefits. That is for somebody who has worked and paid into the Social Security system, and then they claim they can no longer work and collect off the money they paid into the system.
Okay. Now, when you say it's for persons under 65, if a person should sustain a disability before the age of 65, is that what basically counts?
Well, absolutely. In fact, those are the typical claims. I would think that most of our cases that Gary and I see, they range from anywhere in young adulthood. Actually, children are available for a certain type of Social Security claim called SSI, Supplemental Security Income. And we represent individuals, though, for the claim that Gary was referring to, DIB, anywhere from young adulthood up until the age of 65, like Gary said. So anyone from basically age 20 or up.
Okay, DIB, what's DIB?
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's disability insurance benefits.
Okay.
You talk, Social Security deals a lot in acronyms, so it's a DIB or disability insurance. And like the name says, it's an insurance policy. You have no choice in the matter. Everyone has to pay their FICA taxes, so that's the premiums you pay on your insurance.
Oh, okay.
And what happens is if you become disabled, meaning you no longer can work, then you collect from the insurance policy that you paid in the FICA taxes.
Okay. Now, does Medicaid and Medicare play a role in this anywhere?
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, Medicare is available for those individuals with what we refer to as regular Social Security disability. And that's available 2 years, 24 months from the individual's first benefit check. So if an individual were to receive a check in January of this year, they'd be eligible for Medicare in January year 2000. Medicaid in Michigan currently, there's an automatic entitlement to Medicaid eligibility for those people who receive SSI benefits, Supplemental Security Income.
Okay. What about pension and savings? What do you do with that, or how do you deal with that?
Well, somebody can collect Social Security if they have pension, if they have a savings plan. Assets don't count for Social Security disability. For instance, if Donald Trump were to trip and fall down the stairs of his Trump Tower, sustain an injury where he can no longer work, he can collect his Social Security disability.
And still have pension?
And still, if he has a private pension or disability pension or even workers' comp.
Okay.
SSI, Supplemental Security Income, as Joe mentioned, is another type of program where assets are taken into account. You cannot have monies more than $2,000 to be eligible for SSI. But that's a program for people who have not worked enough to collect.
But how does one basically seek out this information? I mean, people are, interested in making sure that they get full coverage of some service, or see if they want to find out if they're eligible for SSI or Social Security benefits, one or the other. And when you go to a Social Security office, they say, well, you have to fill out both forms. Now, normally if you fill out both forms, you may be eligible for one and not the other. Say like you're not eligible for SSI, but you are eligible for Social Security. What would be a drawback? I mean, because if a person has a savings and a pension, is there any drawbacks in that?
Well, not necessarily any drawbacks. The Social Security, like you indicate, you'll go to the Social Security office and they will tell you what benefits you can theoretically apply for and qualify for. And an individual who would be eligible for a regular Social Security claim, who's paid into the system for a number of years, although they might be eligible for SSI because they have limited resources, they would be much better off receiving regular Social Security. And in fact, Social Security will pay them their regular Social Security disability down the road if they are found to be disabled. They wouldn't pay them both SSI and regular Social Security. So there are situations where there are multiple claims, but an individual can only receive from one of the different types of claims.
Okay, now on a multiple claim, when is one eligible if it's a multiple claim? I mean, what would qualify for multiple?
Well, for instance, if somebody paid into Social Security, but their rate is not too high, okay, it's paid at a lower paying job, they'd be able to collect Social Security disability. Also, however, they may be poor, or what's called the working poor, have assets of less than $2,000, so may also be eligible for SSI, okay? It's for poorer individuals who can collect both.
Okay. And when you get a case, or how do you say that you get cases by referrals, but can a person contact you and just ask you a general question before actually meeting with you and discussing their case?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, Gary and I accept cases generally after someone has been denied. That would be, I guess, where about 50% to 60 to 70% of our clients would contact us. They receive a denial letter from the Social Security Administration, and they need help with the processing of it and so forth, the appeals. But Gary and I also accept individuals, clients who come to see us before they even get denied at the initial application. We'll help them. We'll fill out the paperwork with them. We'll go to the Social Security office with them because it's a very daunting task. There's quite a few forms and so forth that you have to fill out, and people who have suffered injuries or disabilities are, as you know, very shaken up and very emotional, and sometimes they want an attorney there with them. So we take cases right from the start, and we always ask that people call us if they have any questions.
Okay. Is there any such thing as a quick case, like you can resolve a case in X amount of days, or what would be a fast turnover, 30 days, 60 days?
Well, the typical case for Social Security, unfortunately, will take probably anywhere from a year to year and a half to sometimes 2 years to go through the appeal process. Some cases are paid at the initial application level, but the numbers from Social Security, it's only about 30% of all cases across the country are paid at the first time. Most cases have to be appealed and appealed yet again.
Okay. Now, when they're appealed and if they're finally turned over as in favor of the client, is there any back pay? Is there such thing as, what is it called when you...
Retroactive benefits, yes. Back pay. We refer to it as back pay. That's the simpler term, actually. And yes, as a matter of fact, they look at two things: the date of the application, when the person actually applied, and the date the person alleges disability, called the DO, date of onset. And depending on what those are and how close they are in conjunction with each other, an individual can be paid back to one or the other, basically. But there are a couple of different rules there.
Okay. Can a client receive assistance from FIA, Family Independent Services, during this time if they're trying to develop a case?
Yes, they can go to the state welfare agency. Oftentimes people ask, what can I do in the meantime?
Right.
It takes a year and a half to 2 years for the typical case to go through. And I say, yes, you can go apply at the FIA. Sometimes they'll give you the state Medicaid, to help you get insurance you need, and also to see a doctor, because it's very important that we have medical documentation for a Social Security case. And the same documentation that you used at the FIA could be used in a Social Security case too.
Okay. Now, the terminology disabled, what does that mean under Social Security?
Well, under Social Security, and it's different under every statute and under every disability policy, Gary and I often come across that question, and individuals will ask us, I'm disabled under the workers' compensation law and so forth, or I'm disabled under a long-term disability policy. For Social Security, it basically means that you can't work. You can't engage in what's called substantial gainful activity, or SGA for short. And there are a couple of exceptions to that, and the most important exception is that an individual won't be considered working if they're making less than $300 a month. If they're making more than $300 a month but below $500 a month, there's a presumption which we as attorneys can rebut in favor of our clients and say, yes, they're over the $300 a month threshold, but because they're under $500 and look at the type of work and so forth, they're not actually still working. So anything under $500 a month in earnings can still get you around that presumption that individual's not working.
That's a lot to know.
Yeah.
So the average everyday working class person would have no idea about this until they actually come into your office, into your firm, and decide for themselves, hey, I need some attorney resources to solidify my case, because there's no way I can just get this. Now, is it after they've been denied once, twice, 3 times from Social Security? Because I know you have to be denied the benefits and you get 30 or 60 days.
60 days, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as Joe mentioned, we help people at all stages, at the initial application level, all the way up through the hearing in front of the administrative law judge, all the way into U.S. Federal District Court. We take cases, the whole gamut, and help them all the way through. People don't always, like you mentioned, understand what it means to be disabled. It could be a physical impairment, a bad back, or it could be a mental impairment such as depression, or a combination of both. Someone, for instance, has a bad back, they may develop depression as well along with it, anybody with a chronic pain case. So we argue that the combination of both the physical and the mental ramifications of the disability prevent you from working.
Okay, because if I'm already physically hurt, then you won't give me my money. It's causing me to have a headache and depression. So as part of it will be under the duress,
Sure.
pressure and duress, and the other part is the physical being.
Sure.
Okay, I'm sure our audience will be glad to hear that, so when they know when they go file what to do.
Well, and a lot of people don't know that, for instance, when the impairments come up, they're called impairments together like that. You
Right.
can argue both impairments, like Gary said, so
Okay.
they're important to point that out.
Okay, well, gentlemen, let's take a commercial break, and we have quite a few more questions. We'll come right back to them.
Janice is one of 4 million people suffering from Alzheimer's disease. There are days when she can't even remember the name of her illness. But thousands of researchers are working on a cure, so that one day we won't remember the name of it either.
For more information on Alzheimer's disease research, call for a free fact sheet. 1-800-438-4380.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of the show. For those of you who are just joining us, we have Joseph Houle and Gary Benberg, Social Security disability representatives. Now, gentlemen, we left off with a few questions, and what I wanted to ask you in particular was, how was disability determined?
Well, Social Security uses what's called a sequential analysis. It's a 5-step process that they go through to either come to a finding of disabled or not disabled. Very briefly, the 5 steps are, number 1, they ask if the person's working. All right, so if you're working, you're automatically disentitled. But as Joe mentioned, that there are exceptions to the rule. For instance, if you're making less than $500 a month. Second, they ask, is the impairment severe? Okay. Third, they ask, does the impairment meet or equal what's called a listing? And a listing is a published set of severity benchmarks that Social Security puts out, and there's different chapters for different bodily functions, the cardiovascular or depression, mental impairments. Number 4, ask if you can go back to doing your past work. They look back 15 years, and Social Security decides you can go back to doing any of that work you did in the last 15 years. You do not collect your benefits. The last step, and what is the most difficult step, is that Social Security will look at any other jobs that exist in the national economy, coupled with your age, education, and work experience. If you're under the age of 50, what this means is that we have to prove that you're unable of doing any type of job that exists in the national economy.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a tough standard.
Yeah, yeah. So the average everyday person doesn't know that their age, their work experience, their education, is education in there too?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
age, experience, education, anything else I forget? Well, you named quite a few. Those are some of the criteria that determine the eligibility for the benefit. Okay. Now, is that for both SSI and Social Security, or just one?
No, the standard is exactly the same. In fact, there are a few other types of claims as well. For instance, there's a claim for widows or widowers benefits, and that's a disability program. There's a claim for children's benefits, which is a little bit different than SSI benefits. SSI benefits are available to children. Children's benefits are available to those individuals under the age of 22 years of age who can prove they're disabled by the age of 22.
Okay.
And there's a claim for divorced spouses benefits as well. And then, as Gary and I have been talking about, the two most common types are Social Security disability and Supplemental Security Income, though, SSI. The standard for all of those claims is exactly the same, and that's the standard that Gary just mentioned.
Okay. Now, does the entire firm, Levine, Benjamin, Tushman, Pratt, Juris, and Stein, is that it?
Very
That's
good.
correct.
Okay,
yes.
I think I did a good job there. Is that entire firm dedicated to Social Security?
We're an entire firm dedicated to representing disabled individuals.
That's what I
All right,
wanted to know.
that's all we do. Joe and I do Social Security disability. That is our specialty. We travel across the state and actually across the country handling these type of cases. We do them in all 50 states. But our law firm also handles workers' compensation matters, the ADA,
Okay.
discrimination, personal injury, auto accident cases, things like that. Any type of case where somebody gets hurt, we help them out.
Okay. Do you go out and do any speeches or anything so people can find you more readily? You do any outside conferences and stuff?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, Gary and I do a lot of public speaking together and as a team, and we've been doing that for about the past, I think, 2 years, and we started doing that. We speak to support groups most often, but we speak to other groups as well, whoever is interested, on Social Security disability, what it takes for an individual to become entitled and so forth. And we started doing that because there's a lot of need for it in the community. A lot of people attend support groups. They didn't know very much about Social Security, and sometimes people are scared to talk to lawyers. And so we introduce ourselves, we give a very good presentation and so forth, and really answer a lot of people's questions. So,
Now, when you say you go out and speak, do you go to churches, senior homes? What kind of places?
All of those. Support groups all across the state, and many different, and you name the disabilities, the support group is there, and we found that it's a very good way. Knowledge is power, all right? People don't understand what their rights are under the Social Security Act, and no one's going to tell them what's out there for them. They may be scared, they don't know what there is. We try to educate people, be it at a support group or a state conference. We talk a lot with doctors, educate doctors on what it's, help their patients with Social Security.
and we've, just to add to that, we've spoken at several local hospitals, to social work departments and so forth, and community organizations and so forth, social workers. So we really help people quite a bit.
Now, after you've completed your conference, do you find that a lot of people are glad to have you come and open up to you more, or do they call you back, contact you later and remind you, oh, you came out to our location and spoke?
Yeah, we get a lot of positive feedback from people. We always stick around afterwards, and a lot of people come up and say, we're so glad you came. I get to answer questions 101. We give our time, and a lot of people do call us back into the future, and it's a great way to meet new clients and a way to educate people.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really great, because I'm sure, like we're sitting here discussing, people don't know their laws, their rules and regulations, and they feel like when they lose a job, that's it. And it shouldn't be that way. They should be able to find a representative to either help them understand that there is some positive feedback in trying to get the job back or collecting from them. Okay, and I don't think a lot of people know that. And it's not just seniors that you service, so it's people across the board.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. And Gary and I could give you examples of people we've met at support groups and so forth that we've really helped out and caught just in time, where they could have almost completely lost their rights to apply for Social Security disability, and where we've been able to help them out and get their disability for them. And you know, if not for, I guess, our timely presentation, then they could be out, you know, substantial amounts of money and so forth that they are due, and they do fit under the guidelines. So
one of the things we always tell at our support groups is, if you remember one thing only from our presentation, is remember this: apply early. You know your rights. Don't sit on your rights, because eventually disability insurance is like an insurance policy. You stop paying your premiums, eventually the insurance runs out. Social Security is the same way. Once you stop working, you have to be found disabled within 5 years of the date you last worked.
Okay.
Otherwise, your insurance lapses. So people will say, I didn't know this was out there, or you know, I thought I was going back to work in 6 months, or
Right.
another 6 months. A doctor says you go back. They could lose their right, and not to mention thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that is entitled to them.
But when you say apply early, and like you said, a person says they thought they were going back to work, so they're in the process of trying to collect workman's comp. Do they still apply for SSI or Social Security benefit?
most likely, yeah, absolutely. For either claim they're entitled for, be it SSI or Social Security, and they are allowed to collect Social Security while they're collecting workman's compensation benefits,
Okay.
or while they're collecting, you know, certain other type of public benefits. Okay, no-fault automobile accident benefits, or
Disability insurance.
disability insurance, long-term disability insurance benefits. And they don't have to be off the rest of their lives, which is important to remember. An individual who's been off 12 consecutive months can apply and get and receive Social Security disability benefits even if they go back to work. And that's another thing that's very important to
Okay.
remember, that maybe someone's been hurt in an automobile accident, they're off for 13 months, they are eligible for those 12 months if they're consecutive months that they've been off, so they should apply for that.
So they received workman's comp, but they've been off the extended time, so they should still apply. So if I've been off of work for a car accident in January, don't have an idea or clue when I'm going back to work, then my workman's comp kicks in, say, somewhere around March, I can still call you guys and put in a claim.
Exactly.
Okay.
As long as you anticipate of being off work at least 12 consecutive months, you should apply for Social Security. It does not cost anything to put in a claim. All right, and what happens is people wait. The 12 months turns into 24, turns into 36, and you lose your rights. As long as you think you're going to be off at least 12 months, you should apply for benefits.
Okay. That's very, very helpful information. I think people live in fear too much to call an attorney and ask them a question. I mean, I know some of you know, some people can't just be called and asked a question, but basically this information here is helpful because it takes some of the edge off of when do you apply, how do you apply, where do you apply, you know. And are you like in the yellow pages, and you know, are you recognized in the yellow pages or what?
Well, we are in the yellow pages. We do advertise in the yellow pages. And as I indicated beforehand, Levine, Benjamin, Tushman, Bradshurst, and Simon, we've been around. The firm has been around since, I believe, 1955. So we have represented people for the last 45 years in these areas, and we have a lot of expertise. And so we have a lot of old clients out there, former clients, that, and that's really where we get you know, most of our new clients from as well.
So your expertise is in Social Security disability.
Correct.
But
Yes.
there's others under the firm that do something else, or
Yes, and what often happens is the hypothetical that you pose to us. Let's say somebody gets hurt at work. They would have a workers' compensation claim and a Social Security claim. We would handle both in our firm. Or somebody gets in an auto accident. You know, they'd get an auto accident claim and a Social Security claim, or a wrongful discharge claim, or an ADA claim.
Okay.
Oftentimes, one person, as I'm sure the audience knows, with a disability, there could be 2, 3 different legalities about it.
Right. Now, are you all well abreast in the ADA laws and everything? So basically, we can ask you a question about American disabilities, and you can answer it for us, or
Well,
is that someone else in the office?
well, Gary and I know a little bit about it, but that's someone else in the office, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we have we divide up our specialties into you know, with different people in different departments. So.
Okay.
we have a
Because the
civil
laws are
department.
changing daily,
They
so
change all the
you
time.
know,
Yeah.
we kind of wonder, you know, who knows what and where, and sometimes attorneys specialize in 2 things instead of just one. So, but you guys basically are.
Yeah,
This
we
is it.
just Social Security. We find it's hard enough just to keep up with the laws, and that's one of the things I like about practicing Social Security law, that it's always changing. Congress is always making changes to the law. We always got to keep abreast of what's going on. There's been sweeping changes within the last several years. offenders in terms of child's cases, in terms of alien cases, legal aliens, and also people suffering from drug or alcohol addiction were cut off from Social Security.
Right.
So there's some wide-ranging changes.
Yeah, because they just discontinued or made some type of clause. A person who's drug or alcohol abusive will only receive benefits for 6 months and then be reevaluated and could be removed from a claim.
That was in January of 1997, so it's been just over a year, about I guess 14 months ago,
Okay.
that all those people who were adjudicated with drugs or alcohol a history of were cut off, and those cases have come back through the hearing process now, and Gary and I have seen a lot of those. And
I'm sure.
often there are dual diagnoses, though, where someone may be using drugs or alcohol, but they still qualify in a different area. For instance, they
Right.
still have that bad back that Gary mentioned,
Okay.
or they have a bad hip or a bad leg or something.
So all is not lost.
No, all
Okay.
is not
Oh,
lost.
okay, okay. Well, gentlemen, any closing remarks for us before we get out of here? So do you have anything upcoming, or how should we go about contacting you? Make sure we come over to the Galleria?
The Galleria.
Galleria.
Yeah, I would just say anybody who's thinking about filing a Social Security claim is to talk to somebody who knows about it, to get it on as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes, and to not lose hope. All right, sometimes you have to, Social Security goes, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You have to be patient, and eventually it should work out for you.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, as usual, you know who I am, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. And before we close, we'd like to ask you to either call us or write in and give our mascot a name. Standing Wheelchair and Company was nice enough to donate a mascot for us, and we need to make sure that we get a chance to get a name for our mascot. If you like, you can call us at area code 248-988-0250 or write us at Just Ask Talk Show, Post Office Box 19694, Old Redford, Michigan 48219. And once again, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. If you know anyone with this, if you know anyone with a disability, don't be afraid. Just ask. I'm your host. Thank you.